Hey, Philip, so nice to have you here.
Good morning.
I was just thinking, well, we were just talking about how we met, and it was a show that it was co-written by you and Brian Kesselman, was it?
Well, I'd love to say that, but no. Brian wrote the music for this 1 hour cantata, I suppose you'd call it.
Yeah.
I commissioned him and got some funding from the London Borough of Harrow. So shout out to London Borough of Harrow. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And, but what all the words were written by famous poets, famous writers.
Mm.
But one, he was struggling with the piece of Byron. So I said, he'd written a lovely tune. So I
Yeah.
said, oh, I'll have a go. I've never written any words, but I wrote it, and that turned out to be the tune, the song that we then performed for the Queen subsequently. So,
Wow.
so that was the one we sang together, Shifting Sands. So yes,
Yeah.
it was written only in that I wrote one, ridiculously wrote one of the numbers.
Oh, it's just I remember that was kind of my first performance with kind of like orchestra as well.
Mm.
And I really, really cherished the experience of being able to sing with. We had Jonathan Code, and his daughter is Rosie Code, who is a very successful soprano. But it was just wonderful to sing alongside such great people.
Well, Jonathan, yes, me, actually, not so much, not so great. But Jonathan, of course, he's been in the Royal Opera Chorus for something like 25 or 30 years.
I know.
Noting his age, and he was also at the school. He was there because he was an ex-schoolboy at this school centenary concert,
Yes.
which indeed Brian and I both, although very different ages, Brian and I. But we won't disclose which way up or down it is.
Right, it's 9:01.
Okay.
I am Nadine Benjamin, the Intuitive Verdi soprano, and I'm a certified NLP mind coach, a certified high performance coach, and a healer. And I'm also a professional international opera singer, and I love it. I love singing my heart out. It just makes my day. And actually, I've been missing singing to the world recently, so I'm going to have to do something about that. So I love championing, connecting, and celebrating people. And I'm on 12 weeks, stay at home. And I'm here because I would really love to share some of my coaching skills and all the wonderful people that are in my world. And today we have the wonderful Philip Barnett. Since 2006, Philip has been totally focused on singing, entertaining, directing choirs, and writing words, not music. This followed a long and successful international business career in IT, business management, and consultancy. He also co-founded the Tonic Choir with composer and baritone Brian Kesselman. Now, as I always say at the beginning of these sessions, neither of us are doctors or psychiatrists, medical doctors or psychiatrists. So what we would always encourage is that if you need support, whichever support that may be, please reach out for it. We really, really, really encourage it. And yeah, and I just hope you're all safe and well. So let's introduce our lovely Philip Barnett.
Yeah. That's a Michael Harper electricity moment.
How are you? How are you? I mean,
awake, dressed, washed, everything.
So tell me, how did you get into singing?
Okay, now this next statement might be difficult for you and some of the people who are watching who know me to believe, but as a child I was incredibly shy.
Oh.
Yeah, very. At the age of 10 I got my first solo in the school. Excuse me, I'm going to cough, but it's not a bad cough, it's just a cough. Better. Solo in a school carol concert, and my now wife of 44 years, Judy, was in the audience, aged 8. I was 10, and she remembers hearing me sing that solo.
Oh, wow.
Mind-blowing. This encouraged me. A few months later, at a Scout Cub, I was a Cub still, gang show, this incredibly shy person stunned his mother by going up on stage and at the rehearsal belting out The Man Who Broke the Bank at Monte Carlo as a solo. And so shyness on the one hand became this completely liberated individual on stage. And that's not a unique story. I mean, I've heard that from others, but it's absolutely true. And it just went on from there to operas. When I was at school, an opera every year. I played the comic lead, of course. Never got the romantic lead. Always the comic lead. And then at college, up in Leeds, sang the leads with the lead comic parts with the Leeds GNS.
Wow. Morning, Susan. Morning, Tanya. Lovely to see you both. It's really interesting, isn't it, how we start with singing from such a young age. I mean, I started in the church, in the Pentecostal church, and then the school that I was at was a Church of England school, so we always sang there as well. And it's amazing. And I used to sing to like what you said. I'm quite shy. I know nobody believes that, but I am. But I used to sing to comfort myself, you know. So, and you're right, that's what takes you out of yourself, is being able to release the voicing that way. It's really interesting.
It was really two people. I mean, I remember it so clearly. I also sang, you mentioned church, I sang in synagogue. I was singing in the choir there from the age of about 11 or 12.
Yeah.
I quickly went to solos, which is great. You're right, it's a release, but it's this bit about being somebody else. I was in the operas, I was an old man, I was an army colonel or whatever it was, and you didn't have to be yourself anymore, and the shyness. And somewhere along that timeline, I don't know where it was, the shyness disappeared, but not entirely. But that's a secret that I'm not going to share with anybody else apart from you. Oh, and Gillian. Good morning, Gillian.
Yeah, good morning, Gillian. Good morning, Gillian. So tell us then, because you have these, you've expanded into choirs. How did you get into choirs? How did that all come about?
Well, all my singing life until about 12 years ago, I suppose, 13 years ago, I'd stayed well away from choir since school because I enjoyed being a solo performer. And choir was kind of constraining in a way. Also, my part singing was awful and remains at best mediocre. Don't tell my choirs that. And then I sold my company, left my company, sold it, did not make a lot of money, just in case anyone's wondering. And so I was introduced to Mary King's E&O outreach program, E&O Davis, I think, and stood with people, and they helped me, the people in the group, to sing the tenor line, second tenor line. And then I went with Mary to Voice Lab at South Bank, did projects there, including great project like War Oratorio for Channel 4. Was in the course of that. Brilliant. If you haven't seen War Oratorio, it's still online. It's brilliant. A bit weird, but brilliant. And you can't hear my voice, which is fine. Did those, and then the Gareth Malone thing started, and Brian and I weren't getting enough cabaret work. It's never enough, is it? And so we started a choir, thinking 30 people, that might be nice. Cross-sell our cabaret work to some of them, and on day one, 120 people showed up. And we thought, what do we do now? So we just did our thing.
No, that's really interesting. You know, I mean, I'm an E&O Harvard artist, so I completely recognize what you're saying there in terms of being supported by such a great company as English National Opera. And then you speak about somebody else who I absolutely cherish and love is Mary King. She's very dear to me in my heart. I mean, she was, before I did E&O, I became an E&O Harvard artist, she had something called the Knack, and I did one term. And I didn't sing opera or anything like that. I was singing things like Climb Every Mountain and She Moved Through the Fair, you know. And she had such a great influence on, you know, me kind of moving forward with my singing, you know. So it's great to hear that she's been so instrumental in your progression as well.
Two people particularly inspired me in the whole choral thing. One was Mary, because I saw a completely different way of working, that you could really be outlandish and almost rude, and so and give advice to people in a way that I'd never seen before, which I've tried to imitate in my own way, of course. And the other was Helen Chadwick, who must give a shout out to Helen Chadwick, extraordinary composer. And that was where I met Michael, excuse me. That's where I met Michael when we did Helen's show at the Royal Opera House in the Hamilton Hall, because it was a show we did 3 times over an afternoon as part of ROH2. We had 3 standing ovations, tears in my eyes as Michael was singing every time. The audience was seated in concentric circles, in the middle of the Paul Hamlin Hall, and we sang coming up, well, the stairs aren't there anymore, up the stairs, around them, inside them, on the balcony. It was choreographed by a guy who was quite a famous choreographer, and I'm now trying to think of his name. He choreographed the Les Mis movie.
I'm not sure.
I can't think of his name. It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
And it was just the most incredible experience. And there again, Helen's remained a friend subsequently. Brilliant. So if she's out there somewhere, good morning, Helen.
And good morning, Stephen Svenholm of Svenholm Artists. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you.
Very important, before we go on, I think my grandson is watching, who is just being cast in his first movie role, age 6, nearly 7. So good morning, Toby.
That's amazing. So you've got this choir now, and you said 120 people came up in the choir, and they're called the tonic choirs. Why that name? Why?
Because of my background in marketing, I always spend a lot of time trying to work on names that I think will live and work and say something.
Yeah.
We tried several ones that had already been taken. Tonic, surprisingly, at that time hadn't been taken by anybody else. Obviously, tonic's a musical term.
Yeah.
Everybody watching most people will probably know that it's the bass note of the scale, and of course, it is a tonic. So it worked. It's also short. The website URL was available. But we started tonic with a number of key rules, if you like, in terms of the way we ran it that we haven't yet changed. I say yet because everything changes in time. And they were, 1, only secular music. We wanted to be completely open to everybody and anybody that wanted to come along. So it's not that we're anti religious, spiritual stuff. Spiritual, well, some of our stuff is spiritual, but in a different way. So only secular music was 1. No solos from within the choir, ever. Because I've seen that in operatic societies, and it sets A against B. I should have been given the solo. My voice is just as good as that. So Brian and I do solos, or we bring in, we brought in some fairly average soloists like yourself. That was a joke, ladies and gentlemen. And thirdly, because I've experienced it from Mary, to sing in interesting places.
Wow.
Because to me, having a choir that just sings in church halls, not that you can get our numbers in church halls, it is only half the experience. So the zenith of what we did was when we had 230 singing at Blenheim Palace. Here we are, picture 230 singing at Blenheim Palace.
Wow.
And that, to me, it gives everybody that additional dimension that otherwise you miss.
So, and what do you feel that the tonic choirs do for the people that attend them?
I can only report what people have said to me, because if I say what I think, it's not correct or fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few comments that we've had. The one that's most memorable was from a lady in her 70s who comes across as extremely confident, lovely lady, and who will not be identified by the story, I'm sure, who said after one of the big concerts that we did, that afternoon, or whatever it was, that performance made me feel good about myself, something I've never felt before.
Oh.
And that's what I did. I died inside for a moment. People that say to me it's a lifeline, a lot of people say it's a lifeline in their lives. They're either alone or life isn't great for them. This is before lockdown. This is not, obviously now it's even worse, I suspect. People who said, one lady said, it's the first time I've been out since my husband died 4 years ago. And so I have to think about what actually this is doing. And I think with the demise of organized religion, not demise, reduction in adherence, perhaps it's fulfilling that need for a spiritual uplift. And here again, I go back to the word spiritual, but not in a religious sense, and a community experience that you get in a church or a synagogue or a mosque, whatever, or a temple, but you don't get in an art class or in Zumba or in yoga. It's that they're very much individual things. And here it's not. And I'm reminded of something that I read, or was told, I think, in a conference, that research has been done to show that when people sing as a choir, their heartbeats synchronize.
Wow.
Because of the breathing.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that most of the tonic choirs haven't yet achieved that level of ability, but I'm sure eventually they will. I think their kidneys probably synchronise, not necessarily their hearts. But seriously, there is, as we know, something about singing together that's extraordinary, and I don't think you get it anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I know my experience of singing with the choir, and also from talking to the choir at the time. I know that from them talking to me that you yourself and Brian have really changed and influenced and, you know, elevated their lives in some way. And what I've really enjoyed about being in that, what I would deem as a community, you know, is the fact that they are all so supportive of each other, and when they sing, they're singing as one. And when you go to them, they're so loving and warm, and there's just this united spirit. And I just, you know, and I know that things come from them having come together and having worked for so long with each other. And what you say about never having a soloist in it, they're just all one. It's really beautiful to watch and to be a part of, and you actually feel it within your heart. You do, and I'm sure that their hearts are all beating as one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's no. I tend to tear up quite easily.
Yeah.
It's fair to say, but there are so many occasions when we're singing together that I do, and I don't. It's they're doing so much better than they did at the beginning, and that they could individually reasonably expect to do. But I think it is that there is a working to a common goal and striving, the striving that they do to try to get better and better.
Yeah.
It is quite remarkable. So,
Yeah.
and it's taught me so many lessons, but one that springs to mind. One of my aims in life was always to conduct an orchestra.
Yeah.
And at the concert we did last November, our 10th anniversary gala concert with orchestra,
I was there.
we were there, thank you. And we've ever done anything with them with an orchestra. I suddenly, the light bulb went on, electricity moment. I don't want to conduct an orchestra, because watching the orchestra being conducted, there's no real connection between them and the conductor. That's a bit unfair, possibly.
There is, but it's a different way to voices. I would say.
Sort of scratching around and doing their thing, but I've got this ability to connect with, was it 130, 140 on that occasion, voices, and it's not me controlling them, because there's no way you can control 130 people. It's this collaboration where they're looking to me for ideas and support and guidance, and I'm looking to them to move me.
Yeah. Well, that's the same way with an orchestra and a conductor. So what you're describing is definitely the same thing. They're just very different, you know, experiences. One's done from the pit and one's done from the stage. That's the only thing that makes them different. But the feelings, the orchestra is looking from that, from the conductor as well. Absolutely.
One day I might experience that, but
you must.
I think it's a bit more difficult. If I'm respectful of orchestral conductors, definitely more difficult. What Brian tells me, so whatever Brian tells me is clearly right.
So tell me, you've created this project called the Tonic Jukebox. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So when I did it. I started a sentence with "so," which is what everybody does now, and I promised myself I would not start a sentence with "so." Strike that sentence. We'll start with another word. When we went into lockdown, and Tonic clearly could not. In fact, we were about a week ahead, because we realised it was a risk to bring together people who are basically in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I think, as well. In that environment was obviously going to be a bad idea. We need to stay in touch, but we need to stay in touch with people who are not necessarily, in all cases, technically the most advanced. How's that for a Weasley way of saying that many of them are not good using the computers or the tablets? So we needed to come up with projects to stay in touch, A, because many of them need to be in touch, and we know that from their comments, not because we're that arrogant that we think we know. B, because when things start up again, I could predict, but I probably shouldn't. When things start up again, we need them still to be with us. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear into nothing. So we thought of two projects initially, one that didn't work particularly well and one that did. The online singing one didn't work particularly because of the technology aspect, and that you need to be much more confident in your musical ability than many of our members are. So the one that did work, is working, Jukebox, is really just a hit one button, go to the jukebox, hit the button for today's track, and it's there. And we're now in week, hang on, let me just go to here. I just switch, I can't see that now. We're now in week 7 of Jukebox. We have a tune 6 days a week. I give myself Sunday off, only so the pressure goes off a little bit. And this can be a track on a theme. So week 1 was, believe it or not, overtures. And gradually the thing is evolving. So 2 weeks ago, I had guest DJs. I invited some of the people who regularly contribute on Facebook responses to suggest their own track. And I actually stuck to what they said, even though in one case I thought, not sure. But then I listened to it a few times and then I started to enjoy it. So it was fine.
So it's been a real way of connecting and also collaborating with the choir and keeping them all connected at the same time. Connecting,
yes. Collaborating wasn't in the original idea. But as the project evolves, because I think we'll be doing this well into the autumn. As it evolves, I'll find different ways of spinning it, I think. Because otherwise, if it's just my choice, 6 days a week, week after week.
So what's the reason of having the jukebox? To kind of get people familiar with new music or different new sets of music, or to keep them involved with the music that they would already be singing?
Right, so the key objective is to stay in touch.
Okay.
In terms of choice of music, I wanted to do 2 things. One, to remind them of things that they probably already knew but had forgotten about. And the second was because I knew today's, for example, 99% of them will never have heard. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. So to also introduce them to stuff. And what has interestingly happened is people have reported, I heard that, and that led me on a trail through the internet to look at this and that, and it reminded me of something I did when I was 20. And it's because music does this, it evokes memories, and it's really given people another dimension to their day. So what is today's track? This week is entr'actes and intermezzos, or intermezzi, and prologues. But I've done stuff from opera, but I also do musicals, because that's the sort of choir we are. And today's is the entr'acte from They're Playing Our Song, which was one of my favourite musicals back in 1980.
But you say, that went on in the West End or something, didn't it? But it didn't.
They revived it, I think, about 2008 or something. Fisher, not so long ago, and it bombed because it's a musical very much of its time. It's very much a 70s musical. But you look at Neil Simon wrote the book, and Marvin Hamlish wrote the music, and Carol Bayer Sager wrote the words. For that era, it's a dream team. And it's a great musical. So today, Tonic was introduced, or the Tonic Jukebox, because it's available outside Tonic. They were introduced to They're Playing Our Song.
So listen, we've heard the kind of concept of Tonic Jukebox now, and you've created this project, and it has been really successful, which is wonderful, and it is maintaining its objective. So what would you say were some tips that you could offer to the audience who were thinking about building new choir projects or projects in general that could really help them along the way?
Right. Well, you did warn me about this yesterday. Tips. So I did tips, visual aid and tips. And I checked them with my shout out for my daughter now, Rachel. Wherever you are, Rachel, good morning.
Hello, Rachel, love you.
Hopefully sitting with Toby, otherwise my grandson is on his own, which is bad. In fact, I should say that Nadine sang at Rachel's wedding, sang beautifully at Rachel's wedding. Actually,
I love your family. I just love your family. I just think they're all amazing.
That's very sweet. Brian and I also sang at Rachel's wedding. But
yes, you did.
It's a good program. Rachel is also being very creative in lockdown and has just launched Fly High Stories at Home.
Yes, I want to interview her about that, so don't say too much about it.
Oh, brilliant. So I checked these 3 tips with Rachel last night, because the same way that she checks things with me, but she didn't until she was about 15, I now check things with her. So 3 tips for projects. All 4 of you who are listening. Susan, Tanya, Gillian, and Stephen.
There's way more loads than that, and there will be later.
Okay, number one,
Mm.
objectives and audience. Be very clear about your objectives, and equally important is your audience.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? What are you hoping to achieve? What's the target audience? What do they want? Where are they and how do they want to receive this? And how technical are they? In lockdown particularly, don't overestimate the technical ability of your audience.
Yeah, can you say that? Can you ask those questions again, but just a bit slower?
Yeah. I talk too quickly, I know this. Judy tells me off all the time. Okay, so why are you doing it? What do you hope to achieve? Where are your target audience? Who are they? What do they want? How technically able are they?
Mm.
What, if anything, are they prepared to pay?
Yeah.
These days, probably not a lot, but that doesn't mean to say they won't. Point number two. That was only one point. Point number two, keep it simple. The best products and projects are always simple.
Mm.
Invariably. There is no deviation from that. So don't overcomplicate in terms of the message or the technical side.
Mm.
And most particularly, don't overcommit in terms of your time and your resources, because it will then fail. Several weeks out, you'll fall over.
Yeah.
And the third tip, this is a sapling, not a tree. Whatever you launch is the beginning of something.
Oh.
It will change.
Yeah.
No matter what you might think, you have not launched the definitive product or project. Be prepared to let it change. Let it go. Oh, that's from Frozen, isn't it?
Let it go, let it go.
I saw the snowman as being my part, but never mind. But obviously not for you. So allow it to change. Two very quick stories that illustrate this.
Mm.
I remember when I did my marketing training years ago, when marketing was a very different animal. I was told the chairman or president of Sony was said to have said, "It's my job to make my product obsolete before the competition do." In other words, change your product before people change their supplier. Change your project before people go and sign on to a different one. Yeah. Keep it fresh. Yeah. And don't be precious of what you've launched. Short story, when I was trained in marketing, I was told the story of Kleenex tissues. Do you know about Kleenex tissues?
No.
As a product, they were launched with one aim in mind, with one goal, to help ladies with their makeup removal.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And one day someone said, "I can blow my nose on this." You don't know where your product, where your project is going to finish up. And so objectives, audience, keep it simple, sapling.
Yes, we can see
it. There's my oak sapling.
Yes, I've seen we can see your sapling. It's wonderful.
So I thought that this is a marketing man, and it was only last night, so this may not work entirely. But if you remember the sapling, you might remember it was oak, objective, audience, keep it simple.
Yeah.
That'll do. Oh, hang on, I've got to say, I'm seeing this here. Good morning, Melvin and Anne. Great supporters of Tonic Jukebox.
Oh, well done. Good morning, Melvin and Anne. And Rebecca Louise Dale is also saying beautiful, incredible advice.
Thank you,
Stephen John Svenholm is saying, "Oh yeah, great tips." So that's wonderful, really wonderful. You have been an amazing guest today, Philip. We just, we love. I love your family. I love you. I love Judy. I just love. I love all of you. You have been incredible in my life on so many levels, and I do think your heart is just so big. And not only do you have the heart, but you have the mind, the intelligence, the know-how, the creativity, the energy, and the voice that just keeps spreading the love everywhere. Now, have you got any final thoughts that you would like to just leave with us?
You asked me this last night as well, and I thought it's very easy to overplay this one, but nevertheless, this is what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, people need the strength that comes from making music together. But sadly, it's not possible online for the majority of people. We know the problems with timing and technology. They can't. So we've got to come up with creative ways. I think we've got to. I think it is important and essential that those of us in the sort of positions that you and I and Brian are in have to come up with ways of keeping people connected. And jukebox is just one idea.
Yeah.
Others, Brian and I have got one other in the planning stage, which has been a little bit torpedoed the last couple of weeks due to family issues, but both Brian and I.
Yeah.
I would just say the thought is I would encourage everybody to come up with ideas to keep music, active music, not just listening, in the lives of people who over the past 10 years have not just tonic, but choirs across the country and the world. It's become a significant part of their lives that it never was before. People that told us I was told just to mouth at school when I was in the choir, not to sing out loud. And they found their voice and it's been snatched away from them. And we've got to find ways of getting it back. And I don't know how we do that, but I will continue to try. And that's my thought for the day.
Oh, Brian, that's just really moved me. It's been snatched away from them. Oh, that just really brings a tear to my eye when I think about it.
It's mine too. Let's get back to our big hearts.
Yeah, but that is part of the heart. Part of the heart is being able to be vulnerable and to show that you care, you know. And that's what I was talking about. You've just got the biggest heart, and I love you for it. I just love you for it. Yeah. Anyway, Rebecca Dow is saying incredible visual marketing, ma'am. Love it. Susan Petland is saying very good advice. Tips, going to write them down and refer for my craft stall. Thank you both. Stay safe. Oh, Rachel's online. Rachel is saying you're part of our family to do. Thank you, Rachel. That's so beautiful. And Tanya is saying thank you so much. I mean, you've just led an incredible session, Philip. I mean, what gold mine you have given to everybody today. I just find you amazing. So where can we find you? I think we were saying that, should we put where we can find you in the comments section?
But not by address. I don't want a queue of people. Okay, not good.
No,
just the website's fine.
Just where we can find the Tonic Jukebox. The websites and stuff, and you'll see how many other incredible stuff he's done after that. So tomorrow we're going to be joined by a wonderful friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Elise Robinson, and she is a feline vet. I thought I would change it up for you guys a little bit and see how you're doing with your cats. And she's going to come on and speak about cats and herself as a vet and what's been happening for her over this safe at home time. So I hope you enjoy that tomorrow. I'm sure we all will. We have definitely enjoyed being with Philip Barnett today, who has been just such a godsend to us this morning, sending you so many blessings, Philip, and love to everybody out there and all of the audience that have sat with us today. Thank you so much. Mwah. Take care now. Thank you.
Safe, everybody.
Safe. Bye-bye.